If I'm thinking about solving problems all the time, then that means that I'm thinking about problems all the time. That's the little realization that I've had this morning, because I was sitting here thinking, like, my mind is so full of stuff right now, and none of it feels like it's particularly constructive to share with the world. But I want to do a video diary. I want to share my thoughts and feelings in the present moment. So what am I going to do about this? So I sat for a while by the waterfall, listening to the sound of the stream, and that's what I came up with. I'm just focusing on problems because I'm problem solving, and I'm so deeply immersed in the problem solving process right now that I've actually lost my creativity a little bit. I've lost my proactive state of mind. I'm not really thinking creatively. I'm not thinking in ways where there's newness and there's possibility, because I just need a fresh set of eyes. Like, I need to just like scrub everything off the whiteboard for a moment and start again. And that's what I thought I was doing. Like, even in a recent video diary, I went out into nature, and I still ended up just in this rambly, like, it just didn't feel like I was arriving anywhere. And that's still going on inside of me. And it's just because I have so much going on in my life, so much new stuff, and I'm trying to fit it all in at once. But I still have challenges. I still have things that I want to create that I'm working on, and I just don't have enough time, I think, is the major issue. And I'm just trying to brute force my way through, even not doing things like this, like not having a day to just go into nature and going to work on something instead. But then when you spend day after day working on a project, your return on the investment for your time decreases. And what I mean by that is, basically, you sit there staring at a computer screen for too long. If you're working on that kind of stuff, then you're not actually going to be doing anything. You're just going to be going around in circles in your head. So effort is one thing, but you can't force yourself to solve problems. You need to relax. You need to enjoy life. You need to let yourself experience different things. Like, that's my thought for the day, really. If you're thinking about problem solving, then all you're thinking about really is problems. And eventually that's going to take its toll on you. But at the same time, there's balance, right? If I never think about problem solving, if I never think about like changing things in my life, then everything stays the same. And I've always said this, like, complacency and contentment, they're like so dangerously similar. Like, complacency is where you just accept everything the way that it is because you can't be bothered. That's really, like, the contentment is you just accept everything the way that it is and you love that. Complacency is you just accept everything the way that it is because you can't be bothered. Like, you can't, or like, for whatever reason, you're just like, I'm not going to change it. See what I mean? Like, and I've had a fear of becoming complacent for a long time, and that's probably what's driven me to be in this constant state of change. Like, I've never been in one place very long. I've never really settled down properly. I've come close. I've been in parts of my life where I've thought, yep, let's just cement this in. Like, let's just freeze this frame and live in it, you know? Like, let's not change too much more. This is it. This is really good, the way that everything is right now. And then something happens and I'm off on some other healing crisis or some other problem-solving quest, or like trying to figure something out. That's what all my problem solving is all about. Like, I'm always trying to figure something out. I'm always trying to discover something new. I'm trying to figure out a way to explain something just right. If I can articulate this idea, then that will be the solution to everything. And then, of course, you arrive at the finish line for any problem solving event, and you're just like, oh, okay, that's done now. Life goes on. Like, you haven't really achieved anything in the grand scheme of things. Not to take away from your sense of achievement in that moment, like, yep, you did it. But I don't know, sometimes I get really out of balance with it, and I think that's what it's all about. Like, I'm always trying to figure everything out. I'm trying to solve all these problems, make everything awesome, and I'm not stopping to smell the roses or smell the waterfalls. And it's been interesting because both times recently when I've come out into nature, into the forest, it's been almost automatic. Like, I was gonna go home. Like, I was gonna go work on some stuff, and I don't even have that much stuff to work on at this point. It's just become like a bad habit, like a pattern. Like, just spend all your time working on stuff. Like, even if it's like, yeah, you got to stop that. But yeah, it's been automatic, and I've just found myself turning around and driving back towards the forest. And I'm kind of grateful I'm really grateful that I know how to get here. That at an earlier stage in my life, I found a bunch of places to go and collect my thoughts and be alone and recharge, reconnect. Because if I didn't have this so deeply ingrained in me, like if it wasn't something that could automatically happen, like something in me just goes, you can't sit in a hot summer room in front of a screen anymore. You've got to go into the nice cool forest and go for a swim. Like, if I didn't have that in me, I'd just be in a cycle of burnout, I reckon. I'd just be like, I'd be unwell. So this is one of the best things that I ever added into my life, is just time out in nature, which should be normal. It's so absurd that this is the weird thing, like for somebody to wander out into the wilderness alone. That's the weird thing. It's like so good for you though. It's good for me. I think with the problem solving, I'm just feeling more deeply into that. What happens as a result of staying in that problem solving state too long as well, is I start to not only look at my own life through a problem solving lens, but I look at the whole world like that. If I do it for too long, if I'm just in that like figuring stuff out, got to figure it out, and then I start to just like, it's like, yeah, it just takes over. Like, this figuring stuff out thing kind of takes over. And I'm looking at the whole world as if I've got to figure out every problem in the world needs a solution, right? So you start to kind of take on little bits and pieces and start to like, yeah, just get way too involved in things that where I'm sitting right now, I actually have no influence over. And if I can't actually make changes to something, then why am I even getting involved in the first place? Even theoretically in my own imagination, why even get involved in that way? Like, just stay out of what you can't control and focus on what you can, like, work on to create a better reality for yourself and the people around you. So as I move from that problem solving state of being to realizing that I've already solved a bunch of problems and I've already figured a bunch of stuff out. There's a lot more stuff in the finished pile than the unfinished pile if you look at your entire lifetime. So look at that, relax. I'm talking to myself, and maybe somebody else who is feeling similarly would feel like I'm talking to you as well. But yeah, there's so much stuff that I've already figured out. There's so many completed tasks. If you put them side by side, like we're talking about a grain of sand on the beach, like the present moment is so insignificant as at the same time as it is the most significant, because it's all we have. But like, it's insignificant in the sense that you don't have to worry about it so much. Like, you can just chill out. You don't have to do everything right now, because right now is like, it's here again. Look, we're here. Like, it continues. And even if I wasted, quote unquote, wasted an entire day, if that was even possible, then there's another day tomorrow. And I suppose that can be a dangerous way to look at it as well, depending where you're at. Like, that's the interesting thing I've learned about, documenting thoughts and feelings and documenting moments. Like, you start to realize that what makes sense today and what is like practical today, if you had told it to me a year ago, and I had, for whatever reason, I was just listening to something that I'm saying today a year ago, and I thought, yeah, that's the absolute truth, and I just applied that to what was going on in my life in that moment, it could have like totally derailed me. It's just like, that's the thing, like, that's why I can't make a video with the intention to like help somebody or assist somebody or change your life, because it's like, I don't know where you're at. So I just express what I'm thinking and feeling, and then people just end up where they need to be. And that's kind of cool. Sometimes I am a little bit more direct though. This is just, I'm coming out of a period where there's been a lot of stuff going on inside of me, and I have been in that, I've been calling it problem solving and figuring stuff out, but it's just like, I started a whole bunch of new projects. Like, just picture a shed full of like all these woodworking projects, and I started one thing, and then I was like, oh my god, I could also build this. And then I was like, wow, look, now I have these new tools, like, and like just started so many things, and now I'm kind of like, okay, I've got to either like put that in the bin, or like, I want to finish it all. Like, that's another personality trait of mine, I suppose. Like, I don't do unfinished business. Like, I don't like not completing things, and it really hurts me when I start something that I can't finish. And that actually leads to all kinds of other things that I'm not going to get into. Like, or you can just imagine, like, you might be more reluctant to start something if you think you might not be able to finish it, and things like that. But it's also like, as much as it's right now I'm like, oh, that's probably not the best thing, it's also probably has heaps of benefits, because leaving no task unfinished means that there's no loose ends, everything's done. Like, it brings me a lot of inner peace when everything's all sorted, and I don't have to worry about like having 50 billion different unfinished projects. And I think that's probably why I'm a little bit scattered and stressed lately, and getting into these like, got to figure it all out and problem solve, because I'm not used to it. I'm not used to having so much stuff that's just like floating around, and it's in all different stages of completion. But maybe that's a new lesson that I'm learning even. Maybe this is like, it doesn't have to be stressful. Maybe if that's how it can be. I can just be totally cool with the fact that I have no idea when I'm going to get around to this bit, that bit. It'll be all part of the fun. But yeah, that's what it feels like. Because if you've been following along, you kind of have a bit of a picture. If you haven't, it doesn't really matter. Like, basically, I found like a whole new family, my biological father, and then, well, that's really been the major thing. But I've had, yeah, there's heaps of extra little bits and pieces, and it's all like private as well. And like, there's like a ripple effect of like the changes that have happened inside of me as a result of like finding out all this new stuff about myself, and then new hobbies and interests, you know, like getting on the motorbikes and all of that. Like just yeah, it'll become pretty obvious pretty soon, like that there's some bigger changes taking place. But for now, I'll just say like it feels like there's a lot going on, and I've been stuck in a problem solving state of mind, and I'm just realizing now that I can relax, and I'm gonna still figure stuff out, but I don't need to. That doesn't need to be the sole purpose of my existence, because that actually creates a state of being where I can't figure anything out because I'm so stressed out, and all I'm thinking about is problems, and I'm not thinking creatively and proactively anymore. I'm just thinking. It's almost like I'm dropping back into a kind of survival mode. It's not about survival anymore. Like I really am at a stage in my life where I've got that part figured out. Maybe I was a bit slow to get there, but I got there. And now I'm just getting used to the fact that everything's okay. While also starting 50 million new chapters in my life. And yeah, I guess that's just kind of what I do. When everything's all figured out, then I look for new things to figure out. Is it positive? Is it negative? Is it just a part of life? Does everybody do this? Does nobody do this? Who knows? If you get anything out of these videos, please let me know what it is down in the comments below. Subscribe if you haven't already. Click the like button for me, and check out carlivs.com if you feel like looking at a little bit more of the different kinds of things that I create.